Overcoming change resistance. Next time on The Culture Hack, we have Jeff Tetz. He's the CEO of Results. And we're talking about change and how creating a consistent framework can help you accelerate change and adoption and get you to where you want to go. Don't miss this episode of The Culture Hack. Hey, it's Adam here, and you're watching The Culture Hack, where we're talking about how to create engaged workspaces that unlock the potential of your teams and drive your business forward in ways you've never seen. So stay tuned. Jeff Tetz, welcome to The Culture Hack.
Well, I'm so happy to be here.
I'm super excited to have Jeff here. He is, of course, the CEO of Results, which, as I've said before, is my favorite title ever. If you missed previous episodes, we talked about the framework that Results has for businesses that are growing and evolving and how they can move forward in a very effective and systematic way. Then we talked about stories. We talked about milk crate moments and culture and people. And we kind of ended up last time talking about this idea of not walking away and picking up the garbage or fixing the problems. And that really made me think about this idea of change and the little things you can do to speed up adoption or gain buy-in or just get that momentum when you're trying to transform an organization. So what comes up for you when I go there?
Well, one of my sort of dear friends and favorite thought leaders in the area of change and culture is Sarah Noel Wilson. So just highly recommend, if you're listening, check out Sarah Noel Wilson. She's easy to find on the internet and on LinkedIn. But she says that people don't fear change, they fear loss. And I think it's an interesting reframe. And change is not easy for all of us, even worse when we're sort of aware or even excited about what that change might be. But so often what gets in the way is what we leave behind. And if you are a manager or a leader and change is something that you're not just having to undergo yourself on a constant basis, but you're trying to work a team and lead a team through change, that's one of the first places to start is what will they perceive to be losing? What are they leaving behind? What are they fearful and afraid of through this change? And I think if you can stop, and it's almost like an empathy walk that you take, is to try to put yourself in the shoes of the people you're asking to change. And it really does clear up the perspective of what, and I think what the obstacles and barriers that might be getting in the way of the change, even for the simplest of projects. Because if you start to do that exercise, you start to figure out, well, are they fearful for their jobs? How do they view this as their future? If we're inserting or incorporating some kind of new technology, do they think that this is one step towards them being irrelevant or being replaced in some fashion? So that means their livelihood, it means their families, right? It means the relevance for them and their ability to make an impact or not. So there's so many different things that can sort of get in the way there and create that barrier and resistance to change. So, that's, I think, one of the first places to start when you're thinking about taking a team through change.
This is great how it comes back to what we talked about with the emotional, paying attention to people, because people are emotional creatures. We want change, but we don't want change, right? We want to change, but not too fast.
Yeah.
Right? And I think so often, I think we've sort of accepted that change requires a little bit of thought. So we'll put together like a change plan or a training plan, right? And we jump straight to like, well, here's the PowerPoint and here's the 3 dates I'm gonna give it over lunch. And there you go, right? Like we're pretty good at doing that part of it, the knowledge part of it. And then the communication might be like an email or something,
Yeah.
right? But we skip over the emotional piece. And I think more and more we're starting to realize if you want high performance, if you want adoption, if you want to influence human behavior, that's the biggest, most important part to pay attention to. And then the rest they'll just consume.
Yeah.
And we just skip it.
Yeah, you're right. There's one of my favorite change resources, and so I think that the book is titled "Influencing Change," and the author's kid, I think it's his son, he does an experiment, and it's on YouTube, where he's trying to get a group of 12 kindergarten kids to wash their hands before they go over to a table filled with donuts and eat the donuts. And it walks through the framework from influencing change, and there's sort of 8 core areas. So the great thing about change is it's been studied so much that there's some predictable steps you can take to increase the probability of success. And it walks through systematically incorporating each one of these 8 changes to the point where by the end of this 12-minute YouTube video, every single kindergarten student washes their hands before they devour the donuts. And it's like if you can do it with kindergarten students, you can do it in your workplace. It's just a matter of how intentional are you prepared and to be, and do you actually want to plan the change initiative versus just winging it, which is what most people do.
And I've heard the objections from people, or the frustrations from leadership, where they're trying to, and they're like, oh, Sammy, doesn't matter what we do, he won't do it. He's like the biggest stick in the mud, like it's frustrating everybody, whatever. And it's amazing. The first question we'll say is like, well, have you asked him? Did you ever ask him what he thought about this in more than just like a passing way? And if the answer is, can they really put their hand on their heart and say yes? Probably not.
Yeah, so often, and it's not for ill intent. We skip the connection part, right? And communication is one thing, but connection. If you think of communication more in terms of connection, I think it gives it a whole new meaning. And the way that you would try to connect with somebody, I think, is very different than the way that you would try to communicate with somebody. So I always sort of look at it through the lens of connection. And are we really doing the work to connect with the people that we need to carry out these changes? And one of the things that came to mind on this piece is like a toddler. They consistently ask why. There's a stage of development where they're asking their parents why. And if we can do a better job at being clear about the why is before we roll out the change, maybe we wouldn't make as many changes as we are in the first place. But if we can dig into why we're doing this, I think that starts to help paint the picture for the employees in a clearer way. The other thing that gets in the way is we underestimate how often and how frequently and consistently we have to communicate for people to understand what's happening. And one of the causes of that is if you have an idea, Adam, you're thinking about that idea for weeks, if not months, before you start telling anybody else about it. So you've been working and playing with that concept for a very, very long time. And we make this assumption in our behavior that everybody else knows what we're talking about with a high degree of clarity, just because we have that clarity ourselves. But our people are not mind readers. And so I think we have to give people some patience and some time to remember that, oh, this thing I'm asking them to do now, I've had like a month head start on this. And so I can't expect them to respond as favorably as I thought they would, because this is a great idea. I know so because I didn't do it willy-nilly. I've been thinking about it for a long time, but they don't have any idea about how long you've been thinking about it yourself.
It makes me think of, we talk a lot about psychological safety in the workforce, and you can't speed trust, right? Speed of trust, right? And I think this is where culture becomes so important, because if you haven't been focused or deliberate about your culture, if you haven't built that trust, then when you have a new idea that maybe is going to change a bunch of things, you have no credits in the bank, regardless of who you are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, okay, now here, I want to challenge something though too on the speed of trust. And so generally I agree, like the longer that we work with someone and get to know someone, the more we know about them, the more, because there's a strong correlation between likability and trust. And so the more that you and I get a chance to spend time together, the likelihood that we're going to like each other more, not less, is quite high. The more we like each other, the more it's going to invite this opportunity for us to build trust. But the reason I want to challenge it is we're not always in environments where we have the luxury of time afforded to us to build trust. Somebody falls down a well in South America. The team of experts that come together around the world to come up with ideas and have to rely and trust each other to rescue that child safely, or the miners that are trapped underground, they don't have time on their side. And so there are some things that we actually can do as leaders and as teams to accelerate trust. And part of it is having clarity about what the goal is. Another big part of it is expressing fallibility and uncertainty. And there's some interesting examples, like of airplanes who, for some reason, they run into technical difficulty and they need more instruction. Some of the gauges fail, or there's some kind of a health-related thing with a pilot, and air traffic control has to walk a less experienced person through the steps of landing the plane or navigating the lack of gauges that are functioning. And when times are particularly stressful, the more there is communication back and forth about what's the current reality, what's the assumptions, what's the plan, what am I going to attempt to do, what's my knowledge gap, what I tried and didn't work, the more that we can send those signals back and forth to each other, the quicker, not only that we create clarity, but the quicker that we can build trust. So there's lots of ways that we can accelerate it, because sometimes we don't have time to be more patient.
You know, I've heard the objection lots. You talk about time and like accelerating trust, where it's like, we're too busy to get everyone in the room for 2 hours to talk about this or something of that nature. But I think sometimes the point that is missed is like, well, if we get in here and just talk for 2 hours, we will save weeks, if not months, off this effort that we're trying to do. Right?
Yeah. And there's a great quote about that, and it's something to the effect that if we don't have time to do it right now, when will we have time to do it right again?
Right? It's like that. You've probably seen a comic. It's like caveman, and they're rolling a wagon up a hill that has square wheels, and then there's one guy who's like rounding the edges and making a round wheel, and they're like, we don't have time for that, get over here.
That's awesome.
Right?
Those are so impactful. They drive home the point of how nonsensical we can all be sometimes, and how irrational our behavior and our perceptions sometimes are.
Right? This is why I think people are such a fascinating topic, because they are predictable, but like not predictable. You never quite know. But we talked a lot about change and evolution. I'm curious next episode to get into results and how you guys evolve and how you guys change, and what's happening in your world. So
yeah, look forward to that.
In the meantime, people want to get a hold of you or they want to learn more about results, where do they go?
Yeah, please connect with me on LinkedIn. You can find me there at Jeff Tetz, and our website is unleashresults.com.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching The Culture Hack. Do you want to chat culture and engagement? Give us a call and come on the show.